The stepmother locked the blind boy in the basement, but the guide dog escaped and came back with someone unexpected. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It's always awesome to see how far our stories are reaching. Liam, only 11 years old, couldn't see the tears falling on his mother's coffin, but he felt them in the air, heavy, lingering between the cold breeze and the smell of wet earth. Blind since birth, Liam experienced the world through sounds, scents, and the warmth of the hearts around him. On that sad day, everything was silence and emptiness. By his side, always alert and trembling with anxiety, was Bella, his guide dog, a golden retriever trained with precision and love. Bella never left Liam's side, not for a second. With every move the boy made, her golden eyes searched for comfort. But even she couldn't stop the change that was about to invade their world. David Carter, Liam's father, was a tall man with a serious face and polished manners. A successful businessman, he spent most of his time between airports and hotels. He loved his son, yes, but he didn't know how to connect with him since Emily's death. Grief consumed him differently. While Liam cried quietly, David tried to forget. Only 3 months passed. 3 months from the burial to the arrival of Victoria Hayes. Victoria was a tall woman, strikingly beautiful, with cold eyes and a calculated smile. She met David at a charity gala in a nearby big city and charmed him with her meticulous allure, intense blue eyes, a voice smooth as velvet, and a carefully crafted past. She said she lost her parents when she was young. She said she loved children. She said she admired Emily's charity work. It was all a lie. David, desperate for companionship, fell into her web with surprising speed. Just 2 weeks after meeting her, he invited her to stay at the house. A month later, they were married in a private ceremony. No witnesses, no music, no tears, except Liam's, who couldn't understand why his father was already talking about love, as if his mother had never existed. "Dad, who is that woman?" Liam asked one night, as Victoria paced the living room in her heels, acting like she already owned the place. "She's a new chance for us, son. I want you to respect her." "I want you to accept her," David replied, avoiding his son's eyes. Though he knew Liam couldn't see him, Liam felt a pang in his chest. Victoria didn't smell like his mother. She didn't talk like her. Her voice had something sharp, something that made him shrink without knowing why. And Bella, who never barked, growled softly when the woman touched her head. Victoria pulled her hand back instantly, with a grimace of disgust that only Bella and Liam noticed. That night, as he went to bed, Liam whispered in his loyal companion's ear, "I don't like her, Bella. I don't like the way she breathes." Bella licked his face gently. At that moment, they couldn't know their lives were about to enter a maze of darkness and suffering, where Liam's blindness wouldn't be his greatest challenge, but rather his father's indifference and the cruelty hidden behind the beauty of a heartless woman. Victoria Hayes's facade was perfect. In public, she was the model wife, always elegant, always smiling, always ready to pose for a photo next to David, as if they were on the cover of a magazine. Every gesture was calculated with surgical precision. Her voice, sweet as honey, fooled everyone, except Liam and Bella. The Carter house, a colonial mansion at the foot of the wooded hills in a small northern US town, held silences that no one else heard. And in those silences, Victoria began to show her true face. It started with small things, subtle changes. Victoria rearranged the living room furniture without warning Liam. She replaced the hallway rug with a slipperier one. She hid Liam's cane in a different place every day, and when Liam tripped or spilled something, her response wasn't help, it was disguised contempt. "Oh, little one, you need to be more careful. I can't be watching you all the time," she'd say with a fake smile, but her tone was sharp, like a knife wrapped in velvet. Bella, always alert, started growling in her presence. Liam felt the tension in her back, the stiffness in her legs, the slight tremble in her breathing. The dog didn't trust Victoria, and that was enough for Liam to distrust her too. One afternoon, while David was still at the office, Liam tried to go down the stairs. The handrail, which was always sturdy, had been loosened. When he leaned on it, he lost his balance and fell to his knees on the last step. Victoria appeared instantly, pristine in her silk blouse, looking down at him as if he were a broken object. "What were you doing without telling anyone?" she asked, her face expressionless. "I just wanted to get some juice," Liam answered, his voice shaky. "Next time, call someone. I don't want you ruining the carpet with blood." Liam felt a chill in his stomach. That wasn't a normal reaction. That wasn't genuine concern. There was something about this woman that words couldn't capture, but his instincts could. And then the humiliations began. Victoria started skipping meals at regular times. She served food late or left it where Liam couldn't reach. She switched the labels on the fridge. She changed the cleaning staff's schedule, leaving Liam alone for hours. And when he stumbled or got lost, she let out quiet giggles. Poor thing, can't even find the bathroom door. How are you going to survive in this world, Liam? Each word was like a thorn. One night, Bella barked loudly when Victoria tried to enter Liam's room without knocking. It was the first time the woman lost control. "Stupid dog," she yelled, shoving Bella with her foot. "This mutt belongs in a shelter, not this house." Liam jumped out of bed and hugged Bella tightly. His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried a silent rage. "Don't touch her. She looks out for me." Victoria stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the hallway light. Her face didn't show anger. It showed contempt. But in an instant, she put her mask back on. "It was a misunderstanding. Of course I didn't mean to hurt her," she murmured with a dry smile. "Good night, little one." And she closed the door slowly. Liam knew this woman wasn't who she claimed to be, and he also knew that while his father was away, he could only count on Bella. The nights at the Carter house had become endless. Silence wasn't just the absence of sound anymore. It was a presence, heavy and oppressive. Liam felt it settle over his bed like a cold blanket. Since Victoria arrived, something had shifted in the air. The walls no longer protected, they whispered. David, consumed by his international business, left for another work trip. This time, it would be longer. 3 weeks in London to close a deal that couldn't wait. The goodbye was brief. A kiss on Liam's forehead, a vague promise of calls, a dry farewell as if his son's inner world wasn't crumbling. "I'm leaving you in good hands, son. Victoria will take care of you," he said with fake confidence. Liam didn't reply. He just listened as the car started. The door closed and Bella sighed beside him. And then, fear took shape. Victoria dropped her loving wife act the moment the plane took off. She no longer faked smiles or softened her tone. Her voice, once sugary, turned harsh. Her steps, once elegant, echoed through the house like a hangman's. She began by turning off all the lights, even in the hallway. Though Liam didn't rely on them to move, he knew the presence of each lamp, each faint glow that gave him emotional guidance. Total darkness was a cruel way of saying there's no shelter here. Then she hid Liam's talking clock. He could no longer tell the time. Meals came late, or not at all. Sometimes he heard the microwave beep in the distance, but no one brought a tray. And when he asked, the answer was always the same. "You need to learn to fend for yourself, don't you? Or do you expect the whole world to serve you?" One night, Victoria left the TV blaring in the living room and locked Liam's bedroom door from the outside. He woke up, scared, disoriented, unsure if it was midnight or afternoon. Bella barked nervously, scratching at the door, pacing in circles as if sensing disaster. When Victoria finally unlocked the door, she smiled as if nothing had happened. "Oh, little one, it was an oversight. I didn't know you were locked in." But that smile didn't fool Liam. Even less Bella. Objects started disappearing. His teddy bear, his mother's necklace, his beloved Braille books. Each day, something was gone, as if his world was shrinking bit by bit. Liam walked with unsteady steps and fell several times. Once he found a small puddle of oil in the hallway. Bella sniffed it first and gently nudged him away. But Liam understood. Victoria wasn't just cruel. She was dangerous. "Why does she hate me?" he whispered one night, stroking Bella's soft ears. The dog couldn't answer, but her whole body trembled. Those days, she no longer barked. She just watched, always on guard, always between Liam and the door. And so, night after night, the house became a prison of marble and shadows. Liam, in his blindness, learned to feel every change in temperature, every vibration in the floor, every foreign breath. Darkness wasn't new to him, but now he feared it, because in that darkness, Victoria moved freely. The clock struck 5:17 a.m. when David Carter walked out the front door, dragging his leather suitcase. Fog covered the garden trees like a sad veil. Liam, wrapped in his flannel robe, listened from the second floor as the gravel crunched under his father's shoes. There was no goodbye, no hug, just a brief message left on the answering machine hours earlier. "I have to catch a flight to London this morning. Victoria's in charge of everything. "I love you, son. I love you, son." Empty words that no longer echoed in Liam's heart. As soon as the car vanished around the bend, silence fell like a verdict. Bella tensed. Victoria, still in her satin pajamas, sipped coffee by the window as if celebrating. Her red-painted lips curved into a smile that was anything but maternal. "Finally alone," she muttered, not addressing anyone in particular. That was the start of the worst week of Liam's life. From that day on, Victoria stopped hiding her contempt. Her voice, once laced with hypocrisy, now cut like a blade. She began with absurd rules. Liam couldn't go to the garden, couldn't turn on the talking radio, couldn't use the home elevator. Everything had to be her way or not at all. Bella barked more often, low and deep. She stood between Liam and his stepmother whenever she got too close. One morning, Victoria nudged Bella with the tip of her shoe when the dog blocked her path. Liam heard Bella's whimper and dropped to his knees to hug her. "Don't you dare do that again," he shouted, his voice trembling but firm. Victoria leaned down and whispered in his ear, "This dog won't last long here if it keeps acting like a wild animal." That threat pierced Liam's soul. From then on, he didn't let go of Bella even when he slept. The days that followed were torture. Victoria withheld food with flimsy excuses. "There's no bread. We're out of milk." The cook didn't show up. But at night, Liam heard the clink of glasses and plates in the dining room. She ate by candlelight alone as if celebrating a secret victory. One rainy afternoon, Liam tried to find the phone to call his great-aunt in a neighboring state, but it was gone. The cordless phone on the second floor was missing too. Victoria had cut off all his contact with the outside world. "Where's the phone?" he asked desperately. "I put it away. I don't want you making unnecessary calls while your father's gone. Besides, you're perfectly fine, aren't you?" Liam shivered. Her voice shook, but not from the cold. "You don't take care of me. You punish me for existing." Victoria froze. For a moment, something dark flashed in her eyes. Then, with that empty smile she'd perfected, she stroked her teacup and said, "If you think this is punishment, you're just starting to understand what it's like to live without privilege." That night, Bella refused to sleep. She paced the room, scratched at the door, growled toward the hallway. Something in her knew the worst was yet to come. The morning dawned cloaked in fog, as if nature itself were trying to hide what was about to happen in the Carter house. The air felt heavy, thick with an invisible tension that clung to the furniture, the walls, the very air. Liam felt it on his skin, even before Bella let out her first bark. Victoria came down the stairs dressed in a white linen blouse and a long navy skirt. Her blonde hair was tied back with meticulous precision. From the kitchen, Dorothy, the elderly housekeeper who had served Emily for years, watched in silence, sensing something was wrong but lacking the courage to step in. "Today's a good day for a change," Victoria said in a calm, almost musical voice. Liam, sitting on the couch with Bella lying beside him, frowned. "What change?" She didn't answer. Instead, she knelt in front of Bella and faked a smile. "This dog needs air, movement, freedom." Bella raised her head and growled softly. Liam, unable to see Victoria's face, sensed the tension in the air, the charged energy that signals disaster. "You're not taking her anywhere," he said quietly, almost out of breath. "Oh yes, I am. I've spoken to an adoption center. They're coming for her this afternoon." Liam stood up instantly. His body shook, but his voice didn't waver. "I can't do that. She's not yours." "She's not yours either, Liam. She's just an animal," Victoria replied coldly. "One that makes messes, barks, bit me once, and could do it again." Bella jumped up, positioning herself in front of Liam, between him and his stepmother. Her ears were back, her body defensive. Protective instinct burned in her blood. "I won't let you hurt her," Liam said, his fists clenched. "Let," Victoria repeated with a dry laugh. "You're in no position to let anything happen, blind boy. This is my house now. Your spoiled days are over." With a sudden move, she tried to push Bella out of the way. The dog, guided by primal instinct, bit the hem of Victoria's skirt, pulling hard. It wasn't an aggressive bite, but a warning. Still, Victoria screamed as if she'd been gravely injured. "She's crazy! This animal attacked me!" she shouted, shaking herself violently. Liam stumbled toward the sound of his dog, reaching out. When he found her, he hugged her neck desperately. "Leave her alone, she's only protecting me." The screams alerted Dorothy, who appeared at the living room doorway. But seeing the scene, Victoria, hysterical, Liam clinging to his dog, Bella with the torn skirt in her teeth. She said nothing. She just watched, then returned to the kitchen, silent. Some things she preferred not to see. Victoria composed herself, breathing deeply, wiping away fake tears. "This isn't over," she muttered, her anger barely contained. "You and your dog will learn your place." Without looking back, she stormed upstairs. Liam sank to the floor, hugging Bella tightly. His whole body trembled, not from fear, but from helplessness. He knew his loyal companion's protection came at a price, and Victoria was ready to make them pay with cruelty. That was the first battle, but it wouldn't be the last. Night fell without warning, bringing a damp cold that seeped through every crack in the old Carter house. Outside, rain pounded the windows with an insistent, almost mournful rhythm. Inside, Victoria glided through the dark hallways like a ghost, a flashlight in hand and her lips pressed tight. Her heels clicked on the wood floor, not hurried, but with a precision that felt almost ritualistic. Liam slept in his room, curled up with Bella. Or so he thought. His sleep was light, nervous, full of starts. Since the argument the day before, he hadn't felt safe for a moment. Tension weighed on his muscles, keeping him alert even when his closed eyes sought rest that wouldn't come. Victoria pushed the door open gently. Bella stood immediately. She didn't bark or growl. She just placed herself between her owner and the figure entering, a protective shadow. Liam sat up, sensing the movement. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "We're putting an end to this game," Victoria replied with a fake calm that chilled the blood. "I'm done with your drama, your tantrums, and that damn animal." Liam clutched Bella's collar. "You're not taking her." "Not this time," she whispered. Suddenly, Victoria whistled toward the hallway. A man appeared, tall, burly, dressed in black. He was one of the occasional gardeners, convinced or paid by Victoria to do her a favor. "Do it, now," she ordered. The man approached silently. Bella lunged fiercely, but a thick leash fell over her, wrapping around her torso. Liam screamed, he kicked. He tried to grab something, but the man was too strong. In seconds, they were separated. "No! Bella! Don't take her! Bella!" The dog was locked in the laundry room. The door slammed shut. Liam ran blindly down the hallway, guided only by sound, stumbling into walls. But then, everything shifted. The world turned upside down. Victoria grabbed his shoulders and dragged him in the opposite direction. "Let me go, let me go." "I've had enough," she snapped, her teeth gritted. They descended a narrow, damp staircase that creaked with each step. Liam recognized the smell instantly. Mold, wet earth, old wood. The basement. He tried to resist, but his strength was no match. Victoria opened the heavy iron door at the end of the hall, shoved him inside, and without a word, locked it. Total darkness. A thick silence wrapped around him like a cursed blanket. Liam breathed heavily. He touched the floor, cold, uneven, with puddles in the corners. No windows, no way out. "Let me out, let me out," he screamed, pounding the door with his fists. On the other side, only the echo of Victoria's footsteps fading away. Minutes passed, then hours. He didn't know how many. Time dissolved in the dampness. Liam curled up in a corner, shivering, calling for Bella in a low voice. But there was no answer. His tears, silent, rolled down his pale cheeks. It was the first time in his young life he felt he might not see the next day. In the darkness, even for someone who had never seen light, fear became something physical, an invisible monster breathing down his neck. The night raged on, pounding the windows with fists of wind and rain. The sound of branches whipping the roof mixed with the heavy silence of the Carter house. But in a locked corner, behind a rusty metal door, Bella lay still, her ear pressed to the floor. Her chest rose and fell with anxiety. She knew Liam was in danger. She could smell his fear, even from across the house. She could hear him, even in his silence. The laundry room where she'd been locked was small, windowless, reeking of bleach and confinement. Bella had scratched at the door for hours, to no avail. Her paws were red, her snout wet from pushing. But Bella wasn't just any dog. She was trained to protect, to guide, to care. And her bond with Liam went beyond duty. It was pure love, sacred instinct. Then something shifted. A faint noise. A draft. Bella moved to the back of the room, sniffing every corner. Under a low cabinet, nearly invisible, was a vent. A rusty, neglected grate. She pushed with her snout. Nothing. She tried again. She used her whole body's strength, until, with a faint creak, one screw gave way. It was barely big enough. But Bella dove in without hesitation. She scraped her back, scratched her paws, but crawled with determination. She squeezed through narrow, dark ducts, through cobwebs and dust. The metal grazed her skin, but she didn't stop. Outside, the world waited, and Liam did too. Finally, she emerged in the kitchen, silent, soaked, panting. She paused for a second. She sniffed the air. She knew Victoria was still in the house, upstairs, maybe asleep, or pretending. She couldn't risk looking for Liam. She needed help. She crossed the kitchen quickly. Her claws clicked on the ceramic floor, but she didn't care. She found the back window, locked. She stood on her hind legs, leaning on the marble counter. She tugged the curtain with her teeth. Nothing. She searched for another way out. And then, the garage door. She knew that exit. David often left it ajar. She ran to it. The handle was high, but Bella jumped. She hit the door. Nothing. She backed up, took a running start, jumped again. Click! The door opened a few inches. Enough. The rain greeted her like an angry mother. She ran through puddles, her paws slipping on the gravel. The city lights glimmered far off, like distant stars. She knew where to go. The police station was a few blocks away. It was a familiar place. Liam had been there for school events, and the officers knew her. She remembered the smells, the faces, the voices. She bolted down the street like a golden arrow lit by lightning. Cars sped by, splashing water. Bella crossed roads, dodged bicycles, sidestepped trash cans. She ran with her heart pounding, guided by the invisible bond tying her to her boy. Finally, she saw it. The glass door, the flashing blue lights, the police station. She slammed into the door with her snout. Inside, 2 officers jumped up. "It's the blind kid's dog," shouted one, Officer Ryan Miller, a young man who'd met Liam at a school visit. "Something's wrong." Bella spun around, barked loudly, and looked at the door as if pleading, "Follow me." Ryan didn't hesitate. He grabbed his jacket and ran out into the rain, followed by his partner, Officer Susan Harper. "Lead the way, girl. Show us where Liam is." And Bella, soaked, exhausted but determined, began to run again, this time with justice behind her. The patrol cars roared through the wet streets, cutting through the early morning with blue lights bouncing off puddles and sleeping houses. The town was still asleep, unaware of the urgency burning in the chest of the soaked dog running ahead. Bella, her fur plastered to her body and paws caked with mud, didn't look back. She just ran as if Liam's soul were at the end of that path. Officer Ryan Miller gripped the wheel tightly. He was young, but not naive. He knew guide dogs didn't show up alone in the middle of the night, howling like the world was falling apart. Susan Harper, in the passenger seat, frantically dialed child services. "We need backup at the Carter house," she said, as the car skidded around a curve. "Suspected child abuse. High risk. Proceed with caution." Bella barked, turned, and leaped onto the patrol car's hood, forcing them to swerve just in time to avoid a road blocked by fallen trees. Every move seemed calculated, as if she knew there was no room for error. The rain grew heavier. Lightning lit up the sky, revealing the Carter house's silhouette atop the hill for brief moments. "There it is," Ryan said. "Come on, girl. Lead us to him." Bella barreled through the open gates. The rusty iron creaked as it moved. The garden was littered with branches and leaves, and the wind howled through the bushes as if the house itself were protesting what it hid. When they reached the entrance, Bella stopped short. She turned her head. She didn't lead them to the front door. She ran to the side of the house, to the basement entrance. "The basement?" Susan asked, her flashlight already on and her hand on her holster. Ryan nodded. With a hard push, they forced the lock. The door opened, revealing old stairs descending into darkness. "Liam!" Ryan shouted. "Liam, we're here!" A faint whimper came from below. Here." The voice was barely a whisper, nearly drowned out. Susan ran down, her heart racing. Ryan followed. Bella descended carefully, her tail wagging with anxious restraint. The flashlight beam swept the damp walls, stopping at a corner. There was Liam, curled into a ball, shivering, his face streaked with dried tears and his lips split. His shirt was soaked, filthy. He looked smaller than he was. "It's okay, buddy," Susan whispered, kneeling beside him. "You're safe now. Everything's going to be fine." Bella lunged to him, licking his face with desperate tenderness. Liam broke into sobs when he felt her. He reached out and hugged her with all the strength he had left. I knew you'd come for me." Ryan grabbed his radio. "We've got the minor. Conscious, dehydrated but stable. We need an ambulance ASAP. Possible neglect and unlawful confinement." At that moment upstairs, a door slammed. Hurried footsteps. Victoria. She came down a few steps, her robe disheveled, her face pale as a sheet. Seeing the officers, she faked surprise. "What's going on here? What are you doing in my house?" Ryan stared at her. "The dog led us here. The boy was locked up." "Don't lie, Mrs. Hayes." "That's not true. He locked himself in there. He's sick, he's unstable. And that animal attacked me. You have to believe me." But Susan didn't need more proof. The lock broken from the outside, the boy's condition, Bella's pleading eyes, it was enough. "Mrs. Hayes, you're under arrest for suspected aggravated child abuse and unlawful confinement." Victoria froze for a moment. Then, as if everything were crashing down, she screamed, "David won't allow this. He loves me. He knows I'm the best thing that's happened to him." "David Carter's on his way," Ryan said coldly. "And trust me, he's going to see a side of you he never imagined." As they carefully carried Liam up the stairs, Bella stayed by his side every second. Susan wrapped him in a thermal blanket, and he, still weak, murmured, "She saved me, my Bella." The siren's wail faded into the distance as David Carter arrived at the house. The rain had stopped, but the clouds hung heavy as if the sky hadn't yet decided to forgive. His car screeched to a halt at the entrance, and David stepped out, his face shattered, his suit soaked, his mind on the edge of collapse. He'd gotten the call in the middle of a meeting in London. Officer Ryan Miller's words echoed in his head. "Your son was found locked in a basement. Mrs. Hayes is detained. Your dog led us to him." He stormed in without asking permission. The living room lights were on, and the echo of the last minutes of chaos still lingered. In the center of the hall, 2 officers escorted Victoria, now handcuffed, stripped of makeup, grace, and control. Her blue eyes were an abyss of rage and defeat. "David," she whispered when she saw him, "you have to believe me. This is a mistake, a trap. That boy's always been a liar." David didn't answer. He just looked at her. For the first time, he saw her for what she was. A shadow dressed in luxury, a lie wrapped in expensive perfume. Nausea churned in his stomach. "Where's my son?" he asked, his voice breaking. "In the hospital. He's being treated for dehydration and extreme fatigue. He's not in danger," Officer Susan Harper replied calmly. Victoria tried to step toward him, but the officers held her back. "David, listen to me. I loved you. I did everything for you. Tell me in the comments, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this story so far? Your opinion means a lot to me." "That boy was pulling you away from me. He's spoiled, a burden." The slap was sharp. David raised his hand and struck her with the wounded dignity of a father betrayed by his heart and guilt. The officers stood firm. Victoria, stunned, didn't shed a tear. She just lowered her head. "Take her away," Susan ordered. In seconds, Victoria vanished through the front door, taken by the law, by fate, by her own arrogance. And the house, for the first time in months, seemed to breathe. Hours later, in room 212 of the nearby city's central hospital, Liam slowly opened his eyes. An IV dripped beside him. Bella slept at his feet, her snout resting on the sheet. Sensing movement, she raised her head and wagged her tail gently. "Dad," Liam murmured. David approached like a broken man, like someone who'd crossed the threshold of regret and now saw a son he'd nearly lost. "I'm here, son. I'm here." Liam reached out weakly, and David took his hand in his, kneeling by the bed. "Forgive me," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't listen to you. I trusted someone who didn't deserve it. I failed you." Liam said nothing. He just squeezed his father's hand. Bella, as if understanding, rested her head on David's arm and let out a long, calm sigh. Finally, they were together. Days later, the media covered the story. Blind boy locked in basement by stepmother, rescued by his guide dog. Cameras showed Bella with a new vest, awarded in a symbolic ceremony by the local police station. A medal gleamed around her neck, Canine Hero of the town. Victoria was formally charged with aggravated child abuse, kidnapping, and obstruction of justice. During the trial, witnesses from her past emerged. An ex-husband, a quiet neighbor, a former employee. They all told the same story. Charm, manipulation, destruction. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison with no chance of parole. Her face vanished from social magazines, her name from elite circles, her mask shattered forever. David sold the house and moved with Liam to a smaller, cozier home near downtown. He enrolled in Braille classes and began learning sign language. Slowly, he discovered a new way to talk to his son, with patience, presence, and heart. And every time Liam went out to the garden, Bella ran ahead, guiding him as always, as if the world were finally turning in their favor. Winter retreated quietly in the small northern town. Snow melted in the gardens, and the first apple tree buds peeked out like whispers of hope. In the Carters' new home, a modest white brick house with a light wood porch, the air no longer smelled of confinement or sorrow. It smelled of fresh coffee, warm bread, and a second chance. Liam woke early each morning. He didn't need anyone to rouse him. Bella, always punctual, rested her snout on the mattress and wagged her tail gently. He smiled and sat up slowly, reaching for his faithful companion. "Good morning, pretty girl," he whispered, and Bella answered with a soft, happy bark. School was now at home. A Braille tutor, Mr. Thompson, came 3 times a week. Liam also began piano lessons with a retired conservatory teacher. He discovered he could create melodies with just his touch, as if his fingers told stories his eyes didn't need to see. But the biggest change was his father. David, once so distant, transformed. He quit his executive roles, sold the company, and started teaching economics at a community college. At home, he wore simple t-shirts, cooked dinner, and with clumsy fingers unused to delicacy, learned to write his son's name in Braille, L-I-A-M. For weeks, he practiced sign language with videos and a teacher named Lisa. Soon, he began communicating with Liam in a new way, slower, more human. One Sunday afternoon, as the setting sun painted the mountains gold, David sat beside his son on a garden bench. Liam stroked Bella's neck as she slept beside him, exhausted from a run. "I need to tell you something, son," David said, his voice steady but emotional. Liam turned to him, listening. "I didn't just fail as a father. I failed as a man. I hid behind work, pain, my own cowardice. But you taught me what it really means to see." Liam didn't answer right away. He took a deep breath. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was a space of trust. After a moment, he reached out and placed his hand over his father's. "It doesn't matter what you did before, it matters what you do now." David let out a sigh and closed his eyes. That simple sentence, spoken with such maturity by an 11-year-old, was the greatest forgiveness he could receive. The days that followed were calm, but full. Liam and Bella became frequent visitors to the college where David taught, and students greeted them warmly. Bella wore a badge that read Guide, Friend, Heroine, and Liam was fondly called the boy with the brave heart. And though the past couldn't be erased, it was no longer a shadow. One afternoon, while walking through the town square, Liam stopped suddenly. "Dad, do you think I'll ever forgive her?" David thought for a moment. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or accepting. It means you choose not to live with hate. You move forward without carrying what hurt you. Liam nodded silently. Then he bent down, petted Bella, and whispered, "Then maybe someday." And they kept walking. The wind rustled the leaves, the sun shone through the clouds, and Bella guided her owner with light, steady steps, as if the world had finally become a place worth living in. 8 years passed. Time, that invisible sculptor, had erased some scars, but left others as sacred marks, proof of a past that would never be denied. Liam was no longer a child. At 19, he walked confidently through the streets of a nearby city, with Bella still by his side, though her steps were slower and her golden snout flecked with grey. They lived in a small apartment with big windows and the smell of books. Liam studied psychology at the local university, focusing on child development. His voice, when he spoke at conferences or in classrooms, was steady, calm, moving. He talked about trauma, neglected childhoods, new beginnings. And he never failed to mention Bella. "She didn't just guide me through the house," he'd say calmly to attentive audiences. "She guided me back to life." David, now with white hair and a slightly hunched back, followed his son with pride. He taught night classes and spent afternoons listening to jazz with a cup of tea, reading Braille to practice. The two were a quiet, united team. Their words, though few, carried the weight of everything left unsaid in the past. Bella, at 14, no longer ran, but she still walked. Proud, calm, loved. Liam had refused to retire her. No one could replace her, and she wouldn't let anyone try. One spring afternoon, Liam organized an open talk at the same school where, years before, Officer Susan Harper had rescued him. The event was called The Value of Being Seen, the Silent Childhood. The room was packed. Among the crowd, new faces and some old ones. Ryan Miller, now a police captain, sat in the front row. Susan, retired but active in social causes, smiled as Bella slowly climbed the stage, gently guided by Liam. Today, I want to speak not as a victim, but as a witness to the power of compassion, he said calmly. Because I was in the dark, I was ignored, I was silenced, but someone without a voice saved me. Bella lay at his feet, her head resting on her paws, eyes closed, as if saying, "Mission accomplished." At the end of the talk, Liam handed a letter to the mayor. In it, he requested a state law to regulate monitoring of families with prior neglect complaints. The law would bear his mother's name, Emily Carter Law. A month later, it was passed. One random Saturday, Liam sat with David under the same oak tree where Bella used to nap in the sun. With the dog sleeping between them, Liam broke the silence. "Dad, I know Bella's tired. I see it in how she walks, how she doesn't climb stairs anymore. I know the time will come." David took a deep breath and held his son's hand firmly. "When it does, she'll know she did everything she came to do." Liam said nothing. He just smiled sadly. And that night, as the moon shone quietly over the city, Bella slept deeply and passed in peace. She was buried in the garden of the house where it all began anew. On her grave, a bronze plaque, Bella Carter Guide, guardian, family, the one who saw for him until he could see for himself. Thank you so much for sticking with this story until the end. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a ton and motivates us to keep bringing new stories every week. And since you're here, take a moment to check out another one of our stories that's popping up on your screen. Big hug and see you next time. Stay well.